All right, good evening and welcome to the March 24th regular board meeting in the Wenatchee School District. We'll open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hand away without take my shirt off. We'll win. Esta junta se lleva a cabo en inglés, pero contamos con servicio de traducción. Si alguien gusta hacer un comentario público o recibir explicaciones en español, por favor indique su necesidad. All right, we're now going to work through the agenda. Board, are there any proposed changes or modifications of the agenda? All right, hearing none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda were sent to the board and posted online last week. The board has had the opportunity to review the materials and ask the superintendent any questions they have about any items on the consent agenda. The consent agenda for this meeting includes the minutes for the 3/10/26 regular meeting and the 3/16/26 workshop, vouchers and payroll, personnel report, surplus report, contracts, field trips, January financial report, March enrollment report, and information and condition of schools report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Has been moved by Julie and seconded by Mark. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of adopting the consent agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Bright spots. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Kalahar for this evening's bright spots.
Excellent. So our bright spots moment at each of our board meetings gives the school board of directors and I the opportunity to highlight a celebration in the district and honor the great work and educational experiences that are happening therein. And tonight we're excited about our ASB reports. And so, Melanie, are you here for Wenatchee High Schools? Okay, great. All right, let's start with Wenatchee High School.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Melanie Tovar, and I proudly serve as a vice president at Wenatchee High School.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anis Velasquez, and I'm the current ASB secretary and the newly elected ASB president for next year. And we'll start off. So over the past few weeks, we've been working hard to organize all the details to make a prom more a memorable event for all students. And we recently revealed the prom theme, which is Rio, and students are really excited about it, and we've gotten only great feedback. Since then, we've been focusing on other things for prom, like decorations and activities leading up to prom, such as co-ed soccer and co-ed basketball, and making sure that this event is inclusive and fun for everyone. A lot has gone into planning prom, and our team has been putting in a lot of time to make sure everything comes together smoothly. And we're excited to see it all come to life and create a great experience for our student body. And this month, we've also had 4 team leader meetings and 3 Senate meetings, with our 4th one being tomorrow.
First and foremost, we have been doing a lot of planning after the conclusion of Litter Box. We shifted our focus towards strengthening school culture. We've worked on creating a more engaging environment by updating bulletin boards and organizing interactive lunch activities, and introducing consistent morning announcements to better inform our student body about upcoming events. Our spirit team and junior class senators are also collaborating on an upcoming spring sports assembly / prom, which will recognize prom and also will recognize and celebrate all of our spring athletes and their hard work while continuing to build school spirit and unity. Furthermore, we are excited to announce that we have elected our new executive team for next year. President Anais Velasquez, Vice Presidents Eileen Santana Gervais, Secretary Edward Uribe, and Treasurer Yuridia Mora Almanza. This year, we saw an especially impressive number of students run for executive positions. I lost my... Perfect, yes. Which reflects the growing leadership and involvement within our school. Now that our executive team has been selected, we are currently working on filling our coordinator positions, and after that process, it will be followed by the selection of our senators and class presidents. We are confident that our school will be in great hands moving forward. Lastly, ASB is proud to introduce a brand new event, our very first Panther Palooza. This year, we're bringing not just 1 or 2, but 3 live bands, along with food trucks and a variety of fun yard games for everyone to enjoy. And if you're not much of a dancer, don't let that stop you. Come out, have fun, and maybe even show off a few moves. With this in mind, we invite all of you to come out and support this new event. Our team has worked incredibly hard to make Pantherpalooza a reality, and we're excited to see our community come together. Immediately following Pantherpalooza, there will also be a boys soccer game, making it a great opportunity to support our school not just once, but twice. We welcome and invite all of you to join us on April 17th from 5 to 7 p.m. in the Wenatchee High School parking lot. Thank you again for your time, support, and continued investment in our school. If you have any questions or even compliments, please feel free to ask.
The Pantherpalooza is April 17th,
Yes, 5 to 7.
5 to 7. Awesome. And then Rio, as in Rio the cartoon, or
Like the movie, yeah.
Rio the movie?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that should be colorful.
I know it is.
Fun.
I'm like seeing everybody's like prom dresses and they're all colored.
Lots
With-
of feathers.
Yeah.
With sneakers, of course.
Yeah, we can't have no heels.
No, I love it. Well, thanks, ladies, and congratulations on the election. Yes. All right. And Gwen's here for West Side. Excellent. Thanks for being here tonight.
Hi, my name is Gwen Costello, and I'm the vice president of the leadership club at Westside. And upcoming is our second annual Sheena Town will take place next month on April 23rd. This will be similar to last year's, but this year we are all completely digital. Students will receive a sort of debit card that will allow them to swipe throughout the day once we have Consumer Jungle and Luke Evans here with his amazing volunteers to help with this event to help be a success. And congratulations to Maddie Sutton and Skylar Simon, who competed at the Wenatchee High School State Mock Trial team this past weekend. So congrats to them. And today we began our SBA testing with math. We will follow with April and follow in April with ELA and all of the science testing. Today, our counselors, our counselors and Mr. Stansberry have been visiting our 3 middle schools and Valley Academy to speak with the 8th graders about Westside and how our programs work there. And our annual spaghetti fundraiser will be Thursday, May 7th in our cafeteria. It will feature a silent auction, a live art auction, and a delicious dinner, and all the proceeds will go to the benefit of Deleza Zavala, which is an 8-year-old third grader in our district who was diagnosed with leukemia this past summer. And invitations were emailed out to the board and the cabinet yesterday by Mrs. Devereaux, and messaging will go out district-wide very soon. And prom, it will be Friday, May 15th, and the theme is Starry Night. Prom is always free for Westside students, and there are exceptions. We do have guest forms if anyone is willing to go. And that brings me to my conclusion. If you have any questions or anything, just ask, feel free.
How's the artwork looking for this year's live auction?
I would say it's very unique and very different this year. I would say there's a lot of very broad forms of art. There's a lot of like patchwork styles, or there's very abstract sort of pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That concludes our ASB updates for today. I think we move on to citizen comment next. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Kim, we have any citizen comments?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm gonna read the spiel then, just a sec. We will, that's right, it's been a minute. We will now move on to the citizen comments. If any member of the public would like to make a citizen comment, please sign up online 15 minutes before the meeting or complete a citizen comment form. Forms are available at the room's entrance and should be turned in to the board secretary, Kim White. English and Spanish speakers will be allowed 3 minutes of comment time with additional time allowed for translation. Ms. White will keep a timer that will notify you when your time expires. Please be aware that the board's role is to receive comments. They will not respond to questions or challenges, and the board silence does not signal agreement or endorsement of the speaker's remarks. All right, who do we got first?
Mike Hughes.
All right. Right over here.
That's right. That's an idea. I used to work, when I got out of college, I joined the fire service in town here as Wenatchee Fire Department at the time. Now they're called Wenatchee Valley Fire Department. I worked for 30 years for them. And I retired probably, I don't know, a dozen years ago or so. I don't know. Time flies nowadays. I can't even remember. The reason I'm here is because, you know, when I was unsuccessful working for the fire department and getting a few things done that I wanted to have done for the service of the public from the safety standpoint. And one of the pet peeves I had, I mean, besides not being able to get that done was, you know, recognizing a big time threat in the valley. It happens all over the nation, and it's kids getting killed in house fires. Ages K through 6, and I've got the statistics, so you can look them up online. NFPA stands for National Fire Protection Association, and they have all the statistics, and we've used them for a reference and for information, code writing and all that forever also. But the problem is there isn't anything right now in the valley, and I've talked to the local fire guys, and there's only a few of them that are left that worked when I was working there, and they're not doing anything as far as getting into the schools and teaching fire science or fire protection or fire safety. And Brian, my friend, and I have tried to do that a number of times. We've been unsuccessful, and I've talked to one of the principals here. Was it last year? I think, or maybe a couple years ago, and I didn't get anywhere. And what my idea is to, for somebody, it doesn't have to be me, but somebody to come in to the schools and maybe from K to 6, maybe 3rd grade, 4th grade, I don't know, whatever age would be applicable. So you could teach them for 30 minutes only, and they would retain that. They would remember that for life. And my idea, and I already wrote a program on it, but it would have to be something would have to be, you know, written up and presented to the board and accepted and be, you know, I'm also dealing with the state curriculum. There's nothing there in the state curriculum. I looked it up. The city fire department, Brian Brett was one of my firefighters, and he's a chief now. He's bugging out. So when they get someone else in there, I may talk to them about it and see if they have any ideas. But it would be nice for one time only, once during the year, for from K to 6 to K to 7, only one class coming in for 30 minutes, and 20 minutes of that would be addressed to each of the classes. And it's how do you keep the kids from getting killed in a house fire? The last 10 minutes, 20 minutes of telling them what to do and what not to do, and 10 minutes would be for answering questions. So many times we got a request to take an engine down to the school because the teacher wanted us to do that. It was great. We loved doing it, but they didn't learn much at all as far as fire safety goes. It was, climb around the truck, open the compartment doors up, look at the equipment, blah, blah, blah. Turn the siren on, the lights or whatever. It was a dog and pony show. I mean, it was fine. It was nice. I liked it. But I wanted to get in the classroom for a little bit. Like I said, this would be a 30-minute deal once only, not for all the classes, not for all the grades. It would be, it would be maybe 3rd grade. I'm thinking, I don't know, is my time running short?
That's your time. But thank you, Mike, for coming, and we'll be in touch, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm available for questions or whatever, but anyhow, that's an idea. And like I said, I haven't been successful yet. I've tried before.
Okay.
And I don't know why, I don't want to read about kid getting killed in the paper. I don't want to read about that. So.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Mike, thanks for your service.
Kim?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Isai Kulunga. Tonight in this meeting, I'm expressing the concern of the use of national flags during graduation ceremonies. Currently, there are seniors who are not allowed or need permission to wear national flags during graduation. I'd like to start with how, in this lifetime, we are experiencing hardship and fear, and that fear can cause confusion. And now we are afraid what our next move is, a way to step forward into the right path, and path that can safely unite us. But today I'm not looking for a solution. I'm looking for a way to get word out about the situation and make a stand. Here are replies of students in my school who feel like the future should be changed. Ia said, we should represent ourselves and we shouldn't be shut down to not show our pride. Laura said, we should wear where we came from. It's not fair. Mia said, it's unfair because we should wear where we came from, especially when we graduate. It's our proudest moment. And Ezekiel said, we should represent ourselves, especially what the world is going on right now. The students couldn't join me tonight, so I'm here on their behalf speaking for their voice. All the students who feel there should be a change in our future. I'm aware of the strict guidelines and what door we might open to allow this, because nobody wants to see the Confederate flag or the Nazi flag. I have a proposal. Before graduation, there will be a survey for the seniors, and if they want, they can pick their flag or outfit they want to bring. The difference with using heritage flags is it tells a story. It tells us where we came from. It tells us where we're raised from, and it shows our pride. Think about the future generations. Should they be taught and shunned down for not representing their heritage of their homes because of what the public would think? Because we shouldn't shut down our pride. We should make a change. And I humbly ask you all to hear my hope. As Bad Bunny said, the only thing more powerful than hate is love. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it. Thank you all for coming in. We are moving on to special presentations.
Special presentations. We have Marcy Horner back with us for her third board presentation in 3 years. We appreciate seeing you, Marcy. Thank you for all the work that you do in the world of demography and the world of Wenatchee. So we're glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I do love to come to board meetings. I love the humanity of it. I sit and deal with the data, and so I love being able to associate that with the people. So love being here. And so I'm here to talk to you about the demographics and the student forecasting. It's odd, but I'm passionate about this topic and these numbers. So a little bit self-proclaimed, a little bit of a data nerd when it comes to this. So I'm glad I get to the opportunity to share in person what I've been researching about this year. First, I know we've got some new board members here, so probably haven't seen my presentation. So I just want to kind of talk about what the work that we accomplish. We take the district tabular data and spatial data and analyze that. We analyze the future and active residential housing units. We look at the demographic trends, and then we develop the forecast by grade, by attendance area, and it's a resident-based forecast. Just a little visual and look under the hood of our methodology. We really rely heavily, solely, foundationally on the student data, which is your data. So sometimes I get asked, are you using census data? Are you using the state average? We're actually using your student data. So this comes directly from Wenatchee School District. We also gather the birth data from the state that applies to your area. Then we take mobility, which I'll explain a little bit later, but that is looking at 4 sets of 4 years of student data. We look at student yield factors, and we combine all of these factors with your student data and produce a forecast. So, so I'm going to talk a little bit about each of that, but really the heart of what we do is turning tabular data into spatial data, which is we use GIS. It's a super exciting, I say exciting. I don't know if you know anything about GIS, usually people love it. I really do enjoy it, but it allows us to start thinking and analyzing spatially, which we don't often get to do. I'm a visual person, so when I see numbers in a spreadsheet or in a table, I think, wow, those are a lot of numbers. But when then you can then convert that into where that data represents, it tells a story. So we take, like I said, 4 years of student data. We geocode those students. Essentially, we're putting every single student that you have in your district on a map. And we also spatially have your attendance areas in your schools all layered in our GIS system. We break your district up into smaller study areas. So Wenatchee is broken up into 216 different study areas where we can look at those residential or all of that spatial data at a more detailed level. We once again look at your residential developments, and we put those on the maps that we can all layer on top of each other and then do some spatial analysis. So first, I just want to take a look at, this is the data that the district provided us. We just turned it into these spreadsheets so that you can see both by grade level, the progression of data in 22, 23, 24, and this year, fall of 25. So you can see where some losses and some gains were. A little bit of a gain in first grade this year, a little bit of a gain of 13 students in fourth grade this year. That doesn't necessarily mean you're increasing students year over year. That just means that you have a larger cohort in that grade. You can see the fourth grade in 2025 is 513 students. The year before in third grade, there were 514 students. The year before, 536 students. So that's just a larger cohort. And also shows a little bit of a loss. So this just takes a look at what those trends are happening within each grade level. And then the table on the right shows you what's been happening in your student data by school. And keep in mind, this is enrollment data. So this is what we get before we geocode the students. So this is what your enrollment is, a total of 6,349 enrolled students this year, which represents a loss of 199 students from your enrolled students last year. I really want to focus and make sure that you understand that we are going to look at your resident population, because the factors that we're going to apply to that are factors that are related to your to what is happening within your district. The students that live outside of the district, that's a variable. They may come and go, and we can't necessarily apply a factor to that because it's not all of the students in that area. So we, once again, put it on a map. I can't show you student points, so we did a heat map. This is the heat map shows the dense areas of the district in that yellow color and the more sparse areas, and didn't show the whole district because you have a lot of district that is not populated, but zoomed in quite a bit. Those blue lines are representing your elementary attendance area lines or elementary attendance boundary lines. I also added a red dotted line that represents your middle school lines. And sometimes you don't recognize things unless you layer them and see them spatially. And this is what I love about spatial analysis. I actually mentioned this, Mr. Kalahar, this year, noting that, do you know, and maybe you do, and maybe this is not an issue in your district, but you do have some areas you can see along those dotted red lines that are not in the same location as the blue lines. That shows what I would call a separate feeder pattern. In other words, your feeder patterns aren't lining up. So you have a smaller community in Lewis and Clark, and another smaller community in Washington Elementary, just to name a couple, that are splitting off in maybe a smaller community. And sometimes you see this where an elementary school is going to split off half and half to to two different middle schools. And that's fine, often that's what you have to do, but I do watch out for small feeder splits. So just another fun way to use GIS and look at spatial analysis. Once we geocode the students and place those dots on a map, we analyze that against your attendance areas. So we create this attendance matrix, and let me just explain how we read this attendance matrix. As you read across the row, you are reading what is happening within an attendance area. This is different than what is happening at the school. These are resident students in the attendance area. So Lewis and Clark Elementary attendance area, the first one on the first school, alphabetically. For just the K through 5 students, we're not doing anything with pre-K students. For the resident population, there are 403 K through 5 students that live within the Lewis and Clark Elementary attendance area. You can see that 299 of those students are enrolled at Lewis and Clark Elementary School. 11 are enrolled at Lincoln, 5 at Mission View, 4 at Newberry, and then you can read on down the rows to see where the students are enrolled versus where they live. If you want to just take a look from the perspective of enrollment, you can just read down the columns. So as you're looking at the column resident Lewis and Clark Elementary School, you see down at the bottom, as of October 8th, there was a total enrollment of 381 students. We've already talked about the 299 students that live in the attendance area. There are 29 students that are enrolled there that live in the Lincoln Elementary attendance area, 12 at Mission View, and on down to the total resident population of 366. There are 15 students coming in from outside the district that are attending that school. And then there are no preschool students there. So this just really, for those of us that love numbers and analysis like that, it gives you some good information and allows you to see where the boundaries kind of interact with programs and policy, because sometimes students are not going to their attendance area because of a programmatic change or a policy change, right? The two schools on the far right are non-boundary schools. So Valley Academy of Learning and Castle Rock. Those are 12 students that are enrolled at Valley Academy of Learning are living within the Lewis and Clark attendance area. So good information, I think, to have as we, and a starting point of how we do the analysis. With that, we look at that just based on versus the capacity of the school. I understand that capacities is often a topic of discussion. Capacity is also a choice. So there is some perhaps some differences with building capacity, what I would call building capacity versus a functional capacity that might change regularly or often as the purpose of classrooms change. But looking at the capacities for this year, we see the resident utilization, and that is the utilization that would be if only the resident students attended that school. So you see a lot of, so you see 73.3% for Lewis and Clark, following along the enrollment projection, which is actually what the projection, or sorry, enrollment utilization, actual utilization is with the students that are enrolled there. So not a ton of discrepancies. Sometimes when I see districts, they have a 80% resident population and a 50% utilized or enrollment population or enrollment utilization. I'm getting my words mixed up. And that might be a difference in programs and policies. And yours don't really sway all that much. But you can see the transfer out rate and the open enrollment rate, or the students that are transferring in for each of those schools. We've done this analysis also for your middle schools. So you have just 3. And again, not a lot of, within the boundary schools, not a lot of movement considering the totals. And then you have the 3 non-boundary schools. And those those utilization numbers, obviously much smaller. And the transfers in and out as well. We just have Wenatchee High School as the only boundary school that you have. And aside from the 1,978 students that live in the attendance area, you do have 240 that live within the boundaries that are attending West Side, 64 at Open Door Skills Resource, and you can see the rest there. You also have 105 coming in from outside the district, and 166 attending West Side from outside of the district. The largest population you have from outside of the district is definitely your high school. And I think that probably speaks to the great work that you're doing in high school. I think it's what I see there is most likely a very attractive programs. Again, 5% open enrollment rate, 335 students moving to a school outside of that boundary, but within the district. I added something new this year to this presentation, which I do include in the report, but I just feel this is a peculiar year, and I work with many districts, and my teammates, we all work with many districts, and there's something that we've seen this year that has been a bit out of the norm, and that's just an unexpected drop in population pretty much everywhere. Even when there are areas that we work in that have high growth, there is less growth than we've projected. So this is a bit of an odd year. I kind of relate it to a bit of a COVID-like year where it was just an unexpected drop, and don't necessarily have data to explain why, just anecdotal information. So I'll leave that conversation for now. But what I wanted to show you is I do talk about capture rate in 2 different ways. In this instant, this is taking data from the American Community Surveys. It's a kind of like a census, except they do it every year. For a smaller sample size. And so this takes that estimated population that Esri has and takes a look at that number, and then versus the resident students that you all have. And what you can see here is that you have a lower kindergarten capture rate than you do any of your other grades. You also, your capture rate grows as the students as in the higher grades. So again, capturing more students in that. So I might come back to that 68% kindergarten and just mention that again in a different slide. I also will say that the capture rate this year did drop from the report that I did last year. Again, this is something that I'm seeing all over the place. Also, you have a higher non-resident transfer in number than you did last year and higher than projected. Not necessarily in kindergarten and 6 through 8, but your high school numbers were a bit higher than we projected. So again, attractive programs and a great district, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the forecast factors that we apply to that student data. The first one is our historic and projected births. So everywhere births are declining, our population is decreasing. And I'm sure that I'm not the first person who's said that to you, but it's a common in the demographics world. We are our youngest population is our smallest population. So what does that mean? That means there's not a lot you can do to counteract fewer people being born in your district. There's whatever you do to attract people, the denominator is still smaller. A couple of things I want to point out here, and I'm going to show you it in a graph because it's visual. And, you know, I said I like visual things, but first, just tabularly, I will show and want to just point out this, the capture rate. And you might remember, I don't know, Board Member Jackson, if you remember this conversation from last year about the capture rate. You called me out and I appreciate you doing that. And I think twice almost every time I'm putting a capture rate for the future. I'm surprised I didn't do this, but a lot of times I might have had somebody else help me with this projecting because I'm putting an asterisk projected future capture rate. I've had people say, well, how do you know? Well, experience, right? But I will say on this, last year I said, I'm going to assume your capture rate at 76% is an anomaly because it dropped. And so I'm going to assume it's going to come back up. And this year I'm saying, well, it's back to 76%. So now I'm saying it's a trend. So I'm not bumping it up. I'm going to keep it the same, which might show you might see the difference a little bit in that forecast. But again, it kind of takes a couple of years before you can say, is this a new trend or is this an anomaly? So sadly, hope it's a short trend and maybe short-lived trend. Maybe it will increase again, but there's other good news I think to come. So let me show you this in the graphic form. So the dark blue numbers are the total births. We get that from the state and we get that by school district. So they say the mothers that are born in this school district, they gather that data and then that's how we get it. So these are relative to your area. So you can see that historically trending downward. Like I said, all over it is trending downward. I'll also say they are changing the way they're gathering data in 2024, which is why I don't have the 2024 numbers on there. And so I'm trying to kind of figure out how to portray that next year. Next year, we'll have 2 years of the new way they are representing that data. But for now, we'll see what we have here. And then the bar on the right shows your kindergarten numbers. So the gray numbers are your historic numbers. That pink one is the current number for 25, 26, and those blue are the projected numbers with that 76% capture rate. So again, those kindergarten numbers are coinciding with the decline in your births for the area. So we project that accordingly. The second one is the mobility factor, which is also called a cohort survival rate. In other words, we're looking at what happens in K to 1 in an attendance area. What happens in 1 to 2, grades 1 to 2, in 2 to 3? Where are you gaining students? Agnostic of the new build. So we take that out of the equation and we just want to know what's happening. And why? Well, because in this, we can identify if you have neighborhoods that age out and you're seeing fewer students. You can also see if a neighborhood starts maybe having some regrowth in it. You can see potentially, sometimes you can see where there are doubled up families. And so this shows, again, what is happening within your existing housing. So let me just point out a few things that stick out to me. Your 10th to 11th and 11th to 12th. I will say that most of the districts I work with, it is not uncommon to go as low in 11th to 12th as a 0.8. And look at you all, well above the 1. Like that shows me that there is something that you are doing that is retaining your kids. So good job. 10 to 11 as well. Those are much higher than I see a lot of places. Your 8 to 9, that's pretty typical of having higher numbers. Those are some pretty good high numbers. But I will also say that in this table, even though there's some blues and some yellows, a little bit above 1, a little bit below 1, it is actually fairly stable. Again, it's not fluctuating a ton. I'm not seeing numbers that are like 0.83. You're seeing some really good stability. So in other words, you're maintaining, to a lot of degree, you're maintaining the students that are living within your boundaries. Now, think back to the slide about the capture rate where I showed you that I think it was 68% in kindergarten, saying you're not capturing all of the kindergarten kids. But what that K-1 is saying is you're getting more kids in first grade. So you might not be capturing them in kindergarten. And that's that kind of, I saw that a lot more after COVID, where we're just holding our babies a little bit longer. And I can understand that. But I've also seen that turn around a little bit if there's, maybe more outreach on preschool or outreach in kindergarten. That's a number I think that you can potentially play with, where others I think are a little bit harder. But it does show, again, some growth from K to 1 and growth from 1 to 2. So you are eventually capturing a lot of those kids that I don't think you capture in the kindergarten year.
Marcy, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yes.
So if we were to have someone hold their child back, and still go to kindergarten, but they're not at the same cohort time, how would that go into the?
It would reflect in the student data as the current year where they are.
Okay.
So it would remain in the, if they stayed in kindergarten, it would remain in kindergarten. And so it would show an increase
Okay.
in that. If that happens often, it would change it. If it's just 1, 2 students, it wouldn't
Sure.
change
Not
it
that
too
big a
much.
deal. But okay, thank you.
Yes. Mobility, I think this is great. When I worked in the district, you may not know this, I come from the district. I've always worked in school districts. I don't consider myself a consultant. I still feel like these are my districts that I work with. I say that all the time. Oh, that's my district. That's my district. I just have a lot of more districts that I have now. But this is when I was doing this and I didn't necessarily have this methodology, this is what I missed. And we would say there's thousands of homes coming. We'll have thousands of kids, but we never did. And we're like, why? Well, because within the existing homes, what is happening? And, this might, again, it gives you a lot of good data. I won't beat that any more than I have, but good information there. The last factor that we use is a student yield factor. We don't reanalyze this every year. I think I did this the first year I was working with you, and unless there's some massive change, but this is single family detached, the apartments and multifamily attached. So you do have low student yield factors, and you all know that. We talk about this all the time, that you just don't see the kids coming from the new homes. So it is what it is. And I think what is important about it is when you hear people, or when you think, oh, I see all these big buildings going up, I see so many homes being built. That is true, but it doesn't mean we panic. It means let's look at how many students we get from it and see what that actually means, because you might be getting 34 students, but those are 34 K through 12. That's divided among 13 grades. So it might really only be like four kids per grade or something like that. So yes, again, it's hard to counterbalance a low birth rate, a dropping birth rate, unless you have a really a lot of new residential development. Speaking of developments, I have this mapped out. It does look better in the report, I must say. I've created some amazing maps for you this year, if I do say so myself. Hope you have the opportunity to look at them. But you can see here just a lot of the developments that we have that we're looking at is Newberry, Lewis and Clark, little something in Sunny Slopes, a little bit in Mission View. So that's where you're going to see the most. And tabularly, here we have it right here. And you can see kind of when we estimate those being full. We reanalyze this every year, talk to you guys, drive it, call the developers, call the city planners and say, do you have anything else coming online? And is this really going to be done in 2030? Oh, wow, it's already done? Oh, wow, let's change that. So we do reanalyze this every year.
And Marcy, you clarified something for Sean and I. We had a question on why there might be a couple of missing things that we were seeing being built, but they were less than 10 units.
Yes.
Is that okay? That's the key.
Yeah,
right?
less than 10 is really going to have a low impact on
Gotcha.
student yield.
Well, we appreciate that. And they literally do come and drive all these things because they'll stop by and see Sean and I in the middle of summer or sometimes. So thank you for that.
No, I love coming here. I don't go to all my clients, but I love coming here. I do. Okay, so you've adopted, I feel like Okay, so we can see that the Lewis and Clark, 605, the highest number of units there, but you also can see, you can't really tell the color very well, but those are those apartments with a much smaller yield there. So just things to be watching for and where that's going to affect your forecast, because these will translate to the forecast. Speaking of, drum roll, this is where we go with the forecast. So here is, oh, thank you. Here is your resident forecast. So let me just direct your eyes. The first three columns are your historic numbers, 2022, 2023, 2024. The fourth column in the lighter blue is your current resident population. Those are your geocoded students that live within the district, and there might be some students pulled out, not a large number. If they are, they were students that might be a different category. So for the most part, you have 6,363 resident K through 12 students in the district. Okay, so a couple things to point out. The conditional formatting, the darker blue are the higher numbers, the purple numbers are the lower numbers. So the 380 kindergarten students that happened this year, that's a really low number and lower than expected. Last year, we projected that to be higher. Don't know why, except anecdotally, students aren't coming to school this year as often as we have seen. But you can see let me show you how the factors play into this. The first one is the impact from the birth rates. So it's each year that impact from the birth rates grows. So again, that's looking at the capture rate, that's looking at the birth rate, and keep in mind the ones that are in years 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, those are students, those are kids that aren't born yet. So that's based on a trend. So when we look at a forecast, we do want to know what's coming, but especially when we're looking at the 10-year, it's like saying, oh, we have a hurricane in the ocean, and then knowing that that could change to a cat. I really don't know terminology. I'm trying, but it's a storm, maybe. You know what I'm talking about. Thank you. It could change, right? So we really want to hold more value onto those earlier numbers, knowing potentially what is to come, but also a lot that is, especially in your younger grades. By year 10, you're looking at forecasted numbers in birth rates all the way up to grade 9. The mobility is that going from one grade to the next. So if your mobility in attendance areas, and this is done at the attendance area level once again, and then combined for the district forecast, and that goes as those grade cohort progressions. And then the impact from the housing spans the whole forecast. So just looking again at the numbers, you have a senior class of 649. That's going to be probably significantly reduced based on historic of what happens from 11th to 12th grade. You probably see an increase from the 550 11th graders, but not as high as 649. So that 12th grade class that comes in is going to be being replaced by a class that's most likely going to be about 200 students fewer. So again, smaller population coming through. The remaining students are students not included in the forecast. Those are your out-of-district students. So unfortunately, the district saw a decrease and is expected to see another decrease, well, consistent decreases. Yes, sadly. I like to just breeze past that because I know it's sad news, and this as well. But yes, decreases are on the horizon. This map shows you those 216 study areas that I told you we actually do that forecast for each of those areas. So in each of those areas, we see where the increase in population is going to be and where the decreases in population is going to be. And this is a net change in 5 years. So you can see how some of that corresponds in that Lewis and Clark. You've got that bright green. Those are a lot of those apartments that we see coming in. So that was bright, or I should say darker green is where the highest number of students are expected to come in. And then those darker red are where the largest decreases are projected to be. So this is showing these blue bars are showing the 2025, 2030, and 2035 projections. So the current, and then 5 years out and 10 years out for each of the elementary attendance area, the resident population for the attendance areas. And it just points out that, you know, Lincoln, you can see that projecting a decline, Mission View, a large drop at Newberry, Sunny Slope, fairly consistent. Lewis and Clark has a little bit of a bump and then back down potentially, right? There could be more housing developments that come in the 10 years. So this is just from what we know now. Just pointing out that this is, again, visually showing that backed up against the capacity numbers to show you what that looks like capacity wise. And this is capacity wise with your resident population. I understand that's a little bit different with your utilized enrollment population. And this for secondary. So your middle school, you see that a lot of capacity available in your 3 middle schools, not as much at the high school. So hopefully that helps you see visually. In the report, it does show the forecast for each of the school attendance areas, just like you saw in the resident. So you can actually look a little bit closer at those and what those graphs look like. So in summary, by the numbers, 6,336 students now projected in 5 years to be less 5,763, and then continue to drop unless something changes significantly in the 10 years. Just a couple key items is projected to continue declining. The main driver is the lower births. The mobility does show stable movement patterns within the district, and the residential growth does help, but it doesn't counter the decline in births. You have 14 active or planned residential developments with 932 units, and the K-12 student decline by the numbers there once again. Do you have any questions that I can answer for you?
I don't know why it just occurred to me, but would there be any difference if we counted students like we count school years? Because we do whole year birth rates like 2015, but we know if you were born in the first half of that year, you're going to be a little bit older than if you were born in the second half of that year. So you're going to have some of the kids in one grade and other kids in another. So it doesn't perfectly work out to you.
It does. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't.
Year.
There's a couple things that don't perfectly work out. And that is one of them because our calendar year is different from our birth year. Another thing that since you're bringing that up to mention is when we're looking at the capture rate of your student population, those are census blocks, which are going to be different geographies than your entire district. So just a couple of things that don't exactly line up. I think it's very comparative. I don't think that, I don't have data, but anecdotally, I don't think there's going to be a huge sway in there. I think that generally you're going to have births that are going to span the year.
All right, doesn't look like there's any other questions. Marcy, I want to thank you for coming and thank you for validating some of the forecasting work that we do and partnering with us. It's a great relationship. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
You as well. Safe travels. Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Have your first one, see how you feel.
All right. Yes.
Marcia's like, my data's.
Oh. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thanks, Marcy. Legislative session update. Executive Director of Business and Finance, Sean Fitzgerald, is back with us for 3 for 3, the final legislative session update. Thanks, Sean.
Dr. Kalahar, I extended the invitation to Marcy, but she declined. In fact, yeah, quick exit there too. I can't imagine why. But President Jackson, members of the board, Dr. Kalahar, here to present here tonight on the third and final legislative update for the 2026 regular session. So familiarity, regular session was a short session, 60 days, started on January 12th and ended on time a couple weeks ago. Here are just data with our prior board meetings. So we've had regular monthly updates on how the legislative session has progressed. And so just kind of giving an update, going through where these bills ended up, and track them throughout the our the three updates and throughout the session. So first one up, no change from last update, just kind of following up from the last month's update. So we did the SEB eligibility expansion. So this was both a House bill and a Senate bill. It did not pass, but basically this was going to require school districts to extend SEB eligibility benefits at the beginning of a person's employment with the district if they had accumulated 630 hours in their prior year with their prior employer. There were a lot of issues with this bill, basically who was going to track it, what type of prior employer qualified, but essentially it was coming out to be kind of an unfunded mandate for the district. So assume the district was going to cover the cost, do all the tracking. So this is a cost savings for the district, and however, this is likely to return next year. And so we're going to pay close attention in 2027. MSOC update. So there was Senate Bill 5918. So this bill did not pass either. So this proposed both an annual inflation adjustment tied to IPD as well as a MSOC, kind of a one-time MSOC increase infusion up to $100,000 per district. So this did not pass, so the status quo remains. So essentially the back-end approach is instead of tying anything to, essentially, it doesn't necessarily mean they won't tie it to an inflation on a year-to-year basis, but they won't be held to, they're basically looking at, okay, this is what we have left over in our budget. This is what we can use to fund MSOC, and that's what we'll plug in. Senate Bill 6113 and House Bill 2257. This one passed. So this was correcting some tax law corrections from the 2025 session, which essentially last year school districts were going to be taxed on professional services. So this year the legislature reversed itself. So now school districts are exempt from being taxed on professional services. However, the tax will remain in effect until July 1st. So we have a few more months under this. However, this will be some savings on the end for the district. Not substantial, but still welcome nonetheless. Other unfortunate news, another year, another couple of bills proposed for reviewing the supermajority, lowering it from 60% either to 55 or 50%. Neither of these bills had any traction this year. They were introduced, but there were no updates since the start of the session. So it's like when there's no movement at all in a bill, you can assume that they're pretty much not going to pass during that legislative session. And this is unfortunate. Last year there was a lot of discussion about reviewing the supermajority threshold. Seemed like there was making real progress, but it ultimately kind of fell through at the 11th hour. And now it seems like we're kind of back at square one. Maximum minimum fund balance. So House Bill 2593 was taking a close look at this throughout the session, but it did not pass. So the status quo remains on school districts setting their own minimum fund balance reserves.
Sean, did that have like significant discussion, or I just in terms of like seeing ahead, like you said, the bond had 2 years ago, or no, last year, it kind of made its way through and there was a lot of talk. And so you think about what's going to happen this year. Mm-hmm. How is this received in the legislature? Do you have any like sense of whether we're going to see it again next year for the maximum minimum fund balance?
For the fund balance, it would be interesting to see if we see this again, because this did kind of make it through. There was lots of discussion. Throughout the session, it was like they removed the maximum amount. They wanted to move up the start year to 27, 28. I think the original proposal was 29, 30. So they were looking at it, modifying it. And one of the things, it started out as the discussion was like, it was kind of punitive for school districts that weren't maintaining their fund balance reserves. It was really kind of wanting to hold them to strict standards if they fell below their reserves. And during discussion in the session, it was kind of turning towards, hey, how can we use this as a way, as kind of like an early warning indicator? So I felt like there was a good amount of discussion in the session. I am surprised it didn't pass in one form or another. So will it return next year? Maybe. Next year is the long session. So a lot of more budget and funding related discussions occur during the long session. So we may see it again next year.
Yeah, and I'll also add that from what I'm hearing in the superintendent world is a lot of people did expect this to pass, and a lot of people were excited about, well, first when it did feel punitive, that no one was really excited, but now they're more excited about a partnership and collaboration in learning and growing together. And how can OSPI continue to support districts that so we don't have as many failing?
House Bill 2551, so maintaining financial solvency of school districts. So this related to school districts selling real property if if they were approaching or at binding conditions. This bill did not pass either. Another bill that did not pass was updating school funding, both the levy and the LEA. So House Bill 2116. This did not make it out of the House, so it didn't go crossover and have discussion in the Senate. But basically, this was proposing increasing the levy lid rate from $2.50 to $3. And then more for us is also increasing funding for local effort assistance, which proposed increasing $1.50 to $2 and having an annual inflationary adjustment. So unfortunately, that one did not move through much in the House. So delving deeper into local effort assistance, one of the biggest things that came out of the legislative session were cuts to the local effort assistance funding for future years. So LEA provides school districts with additional state funding instead of local school districts going out and asking for higher levies. So essentially it's like, and so it's based on your enrollment, assessed value, and now we have to the third factor that we now have to consider is what the legislator is intending to fund in the LEA model going forward. Prior years when I'm looking at this, they haven't really touched it. And so we've been focusing on enrollment and then annual assessed value determined by our county assessor. But in the 2025 session, the legislature increased the funding and provided an inflationary enhancement going forward for the next 2 years. And there was real hope and discussion after the 2025 session that they were going to come into 2026 and extend this funding enhancement beyond the next 2 years. What's happened due to the budget shortfall, and since LEA isn't under the McCleary protections, McCleary umbrella, they saw this as a way, as part of their budget cuts, to make up for the multi-billion-dollar shortfall. So they declined to extend the funding enhancement beyond the next 2 years. So what that means is the funding formula just reverts what it was prior to 2025. So what we're going to see with our LEA funding is we get this short burst and increased funding for 2 years, and then it's going to start to drop unless the legislature steps in the next session and wants to look at this. So initial estimates, that's about probably $1.6 million in less funding over 2 school years. So this would impact both 27-28 and 28-29. In the long term, we're not changing any sort of like our budget reduction amounts, because this is why we budget conservatively to anticipate shortfalls and volatility both at the state and federal level. So it's an unfortunate that we're not going to get this funding unless they step in 2027. But right now, it's been anticipated, it's been incorporated into our forecasts. I don't have high hopes in 2027, but if they do, it would be a welcome windfall for the district.
So the 1.6 is what budgeted money that we would see come out of for those 2 years.
So it's kind of like when we're doing our forecasts and we're looking at, projecting out assessed value, projecting out enrollment, and then, OSPI kind of provides us with their own kind of forecasted spreadsheet. And I kind of looked at the before and after, what the forecasts look like before the legislative session and what they look like after. And it looks roughly about $1.6 million less in that forecast. Transition to kindergarten, more unfortunate news, this bill passed as well. So cutting about $27.3 million in transition to kindergarten funding. So it's a statewide reduction of 35% or 2,000 slots across the state. With the emphasis, they designate OSPI for the rulemaking responsibilities. So now that the bill is passed, they're working on what that's going to look like going forward. But priority students, low-income students, ECAP, special education eligibility, English and multilingual learners get priority. In the last update I provided, they were talking about using kind of the free and reduced lunch status as a qualifier. If we pull our data, again, about 27 out of our 58 students qualified for free and reduced lunch. So going forward, and again, that's not necessarily that, only 27 students qualified. It could mean that other students just didn't fill out the form because it wasn't required. But going forward, once OSPI can releases the criteria, we'll need to be incorporating that with the changes made to the program.
Do we know if that means we'll have only those students are going to have TK, or we're going to have TK and then we're just have to find other dollars for it?
Yeah, that's a great question. We don't know what the 35% reduction looks like, if it'll just be, if they'll reduce our 58 spots by 35%, or if we're going to have to be looking at a new qualifier for students. So we're as excited as you are to figure out what that actually means. Like, we do believe that not, and like Sean said, we think that more than 27 of our TK students would qualify for low socioeconomic status. We just didn't require that form to be filled out. So there's a lot of questions. It actually, it makes me think of, will we have to reduce one of our 4 classrooms or maybe even more? So.
Yeah, there's still uncertainty surrounding it. We're just gonna have to wait for more details over the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Bus depreciation. So this bill also passed. And so this delays replacement cycles for bus replacement. So type A buses are 8-year buses and are replaced at 10 years. So type A are the kind of smaller buses you see around. And then our 13-year buses are kind of those standard larger ones. So that kind of gives you an idea. This bill had some 11th hour changes. When I did my last update, both 8 and 13-year buses, the type A and the type C, were both at a replacement cycle at 15. That essentially would have kind of closed the market on type A buses. I mean, by essentially doubling the replacement cycle. So the legislature made an amendment. So now 8-year buses replaced at 10 years, 13-year buses at 15. And then also an interesting addition was for electronic vehicle buses, impacting depreciation for the next 2 years, essentially only going to be reimbursed at 33% of their value. So if you were going out and following all, taking advantage of the federal grants and the federal incentives to go out and purchase EV buses the last couple of years, you're really going to be impacted because the state is essentially saying, hey, we're not going to fully reimburse you for depreciation on an EV bus, while same time wanting to mandate statewide transition to EV buses, over the next 5 to 10 years as well. So we're going to see how that goes. Maybe they'll revisit it in the 2020 session. But right now, this is what's passed. But essentially, it's less funding for school districts. And this will have an impact on the transportation vehicle fund. So once we kind of get the updated numbers from OSPI, they provide us with the kind of the calculations, but expectation is less money than anticipated. Income tax, another big thing. So the 9.9% tax on AGI above income of 1 million. So this is not going to go into effect immediately. It won't start until January 2028, and revenues won't be collected until the following year in 2029. So, a lot of news about this, a lot of ways to, that's been touted from Olympia about using this revenue for financial stability in the budget over the long term. But we're not going to see any sort of immediate impact in the next year or two. And then there's also challenges to wait both on the legal side and these sort of voter referendums. We know income taxes have not been popular and have been repeatedly voted down. in the state, and this is likely going to face a constitutional challenge. So again, kind of just wait and see approach. So summary for 2026, SEM expansion did not pass, but will likely return next year. Sales tax exemption for school districts on professional services. No change to the bond supermajority. As just discussed, cuts to TK, local effort assistance, and transportation vehicle fund, and no funding changes to MSOC, special education, or transportation operations side. So all those are kind of on the general fund side. And then, just kind of getting some early indicator for 2027. The state's already projecting a budget gap of about 878 million. And my understanding from WASA is that projections rely both on income tax collections and drawing down on their fund balance reserves. They call it the rainy day, but they're drawing down on the reserves. That's what they mean. So kind of makes me a little nervous if you're already incorporating those projections in there. Hopefully they're conservative, because it essentially means you're relying on the income tax to beat constitutional challenges, beat voter referendums, collecting the amount you expected to, and that's already being kind of incorporated into future forecasts. And then again, also it'll be a long session. So a lot more discussion on budget, a lot more discussion on funding. And so again, starts that second week in January on that Tuesday and runs through mid to late April. All right, any other questions?
No. So I was just like, one, can you make it different?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, we're moving into action. So second read of policies. We went through them last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve policies 6910, 6920, 1111, and 5010?
I move to approve the policies as presented.
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Maria and seconded by Caroline. Any discussion? No. All right. All in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Superintendent report.
All right, lots of fun stuff happening since our last board meeting. One, we've started our design advisory committee for the bond. They met literally the day after our last board meeting, so we had a full house. It was great. Get to know who the people were in the room, get to know about where they were in their journey to a new high school. This week, we're taking representatives from this team and our executive team to 4 different high schools tomorrow: Evergreen High School, Tyee High School, Sammamish High School, and Rainier Beach. So we're excited about that. It's going to be a full day. We're leaving early. Yes. And then the day after that, we had our migrant night. And so the focus was health services. So we had all sorts of on-hand health screeners for students. There was a dental presentation, and then Alfonso and I were able to give a bond update and presentation. Then we had our AVID students give parents, core pack members, and community members a tour of the high school. So that was great. Also had a chance to go see The Importance of Being Earnest last Friday. So that was great. Actually, it wasn't last Friday. It was the Friday before. But what a great final tribute to a number of our senior drama students. So it's always kind of that bittersweet time. But man, stay in character and have an accent for 3 hours. That was impressive. And then this weekend, I was able to collaborate with Coach Chris Cloak and the WHS Knowledge Bowl team. They hosted the state competition with 87 teams participating at the high school. It was a packed auditorium, and I had the privilege of helping kick off the event. And I think I've shared this before. The fun thing about Knowledge Bowl is not only was it the largest assembly of Ford Transit vans I've ever seen in the high school parking lot. So that was one thing. But the students and their teams, they dress up in themes. So there's a lot of school spirit. There was, and then there's a lot of just kind of weird, random team outfits. So there's a cowboy group. There was, I called them the black hat group because they all just had black caps on. And then there was a group that had sweaters with collars underneath the sweaters that were popped. It was just they just do fun, weird things, and it was super cool. So great time. And then tonight, Maria and I rolled in from the Mariachi Festival kickoff dinner that was happening. And we got to hear some of our students perform. The coaches always perform for us too. Then Juan Cortez got like the equivalent of a Lifetime Achievement Award for the work that he does and has done for the last 26 years. So that was really special. And yeah, it's been great. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Corey. Caroline, you want to start us off with the board communication?
Sure. Yeah, I brought
A
stuff.
buck. All right. New
Um,
Martin.
updates from WASTA, for their legislative represent. Here you go, guys. I did my job. Two positives that came out of the legislator, okay? One is the OSPI must now create some sort of framework around mental and behavioral health for students so that schools can implement them in their districts to be more on top of the mental health that's been popping up. So that's due November 1st of 27. So we'll get that out from OSPI and be able to look at what we want to use.
Will they be providing funding for that? Just kidding.
We already have counselors. We'll just incorporate it into Character Strong. And then the other one that I wanted to bring up was Senate Bill 5346, and that's the OSPI must create some sort of research presentation around the use of mobile devices in schools so that we can see the effects and the research and all of the things that are happening around devices so that we can have policies in place to take them out and or use them with digital citizenship. So both pretty good things.
All right. Thank you. Julie, you want to go next?
I don't really have anything except is this the first season that we've had the girls softball for the, oh, because I didn't remember it. Yeah, for full time for the spring.
I think so.
I think it's is it? Okay.
Because we had our kickoff and our open. Yeah.
That's what I thought, but I thought it wasn't done, but I was just at the facilities this weekend and it was really cool to have a baseball game, a soccer game and the softball game all there. And it was like, we could just go to the fields and it just felt so connected. So it's really nice to see them there and feeling the school connection there. So it's just my observation of the weekend, but nothing else to report.
Yeah, Diana's not here tonight, but she shared the same thing at our cabinet meeting. She was at the baseball game and just how cool it was to have varsity events happening in all three locations. And then some of the other soccer fields were being used for practice too. So it was busy. It's great.
Students need a multi-pass. All right. Mark, you want to go?
Just seconding things that Corey was at, also into all of the shows of the importance of being earnest, although I never saw any of the show because we were running around outside of the show trying to do everything. And I spent an exciting 16 hours at the high school on the Knowledge Bowl day. And it was really fun to see all of the kids. They were super pumped, and trying to keep them all quiet while there was a performance going on as they were parading around with their trophies was a good time.
All right, Maria.
All right, I have quite a bit. Bouncing off with Corey, yes, we were at the dinner. I will also be partaking in the welcome at Wenatchee Valley College tomorrow for the over 500 students that will be in attendance for the next 3 days doing lessons, kind of like the jazz festival at the college. And then I don't know if you're going to partake in the community tour of the session, so I'll be in that as well. Get to comply with both my roles. That's kind of cool. I attended Wenatchee High School's Ignite for incoming ninth graders. That was really packed. Did I see? No, I didn't see you there. I thought I did. It was really packed with staff. Of course, a bunch of eighth graders and parents, good energy. They had the whole space open. Of course, boys were gravitating to the gym, to the weight room, club, sports. It was a good night.
I will also be participating on Friday at OSPI. It will be here at Wenatchee Valley College to do the John McCoy Since Time Immemorial curriculum training, which is part of the House Bill 5433, which is training on Indigenous curriculum for K-12. So indigenized curriculum. Hopefully we'll see some of our teachers participating in that training as it's required for school districts to have updated curriculum. We don't respond to public comments, but I want to thank our speaker, Mark. Thank you, Hughes, Mr. Hughes. Mike, it was her fault. I want to speak to this is something that actually I can't recall ever talking about. You know, we talk about, well, I don't even know if we talk about lockdown drills, whatnot. But I remember being in school a long time ago and actually learning about, you know, fire safety, not just smoke in the air kind of stuff, but what do you do in case of a house fire? What if you're in the second story building? And I think it's something that we've kind of moved away from and have lost it, but it's yet so important. So whether it's through a partnership of a community partnership with our local county, fire district, whatever it is, I think there's value into looking into that. And that is all I have.
My grandpa says the first guy never has a chance, so I'm going to one up you on we had a class in elementary school. 2 boys lit a firework out of their bedroom window, set the roof on fire, and their little brother was like, "We have to do this to get out of the house now," and like the house burned down and everyone's fine. But yeah, to that point, like it was definitely like that. Okay, so I did the NCW Middle School Band Festival. I tag team with my wife, but all 3 middle schools had students there, and it was actually really cool to see them performing like full game on, managing the students. They were there from 1 until 5. They got a little stir crazy just watching other middle schoolers play band. So it was a big effort from the students, biggest effort from the directors from all the schools, and they did a great job. I also wanted to say at our last Superintendent Advisory Council meeting, the students came really engaged. They had more ideas than I expected them to. And they said some of the things that hasn't come up with the adults, like, oh, if you have that open a campus, the students will just run away. So I appreciated the student perspective, especially Robbie's. But they came to do the work, and I think they really did like actually work on it. We're a little slow getting there, but they moved the models a lot more than we did, board members.
Yeah, they had the monopoly board. So
yeah. So it was a good process, and I really kind of value that the students who are in the high school right now are having a big impact on the process. And other than that, that's it. So meeting adjourned.